So Ben, thanks for joining me today. And Ben, could you just say a little bit about who you are?
So my name is Ben. I'm a vicar in a church just on the edge of Birmingham in the UK, and I've got two young children and a wife. I'm married. See.
Well, thanks, Ben, and thanks for being with me today. And if you could just say a little bit about how you found your way to a steps course.
So I found my way to steps because I have been thinking through what deeper discipleship looks like in our church, and thinking through how we can get people to really dive deeper into their kind of emotional and like spiritual maturity. Thinking that need something that's more than just Bible study. Not that that's not important. And so I've been thinking through kind of emotional health stuff, but I heard about steps through another church in Oxford. Heard about it, seemed to think that sounded like a good idea. Went to explore, and the first step suggestion was to sign up and try a course myself. And so I dived straight in, and that's why I ended up doing steps.
Amazing. So there you were, kind of coming to the first session. And of course, the first session on steps is about facing our own powerlessness. So we are kind of being thrown into the deep water. So how was that to kind of start the process?
Yeah, I suppose it was a really helpful starting point for me, even though I hadn't necessarily wanted to do steps so much for myself. It was very easy upon reaching the first step to realize that I had a very obvious thing that I needed to work on, which was my anger, which was generally just exploding at home, and taking that out of my family. And so for me, that was a behavior that I was sick to death of, and I'd kind of been trying different things, working harder, and just felt like I was in a cycle. And so for me, this just absolutely fitted what it was obvious that that's what I needed to work on with steps. And I did feel helpless. And so at that point, it just came at the right point in my life personally as well.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Ben. And of course, we walk through the powerlessness. We are trying to find peace with God, and then we come to kind of a center point in the process, which is about confession. And of course, confession is a part of your tradition, but I know from previous conversations that you found this to be particularly helpful. So could you just say a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm in a church where we pray a confession corporately every Sunday, and I'm the one leading it as the guy in charge. And yet, what I found that with the steps process and step 5 was we were encouraged to be very specific about what it was that we were wanting to confess. And for me, this really made this real in a whole new way, something that had almost become rote and are just kind of going through the motions, enabled me to actually fully take responsibility. And I realized that, with some of my behavior, I had been kind of blaming others, and it really enabled me to face up to what is mine to own. And so for me, the confession step was a really important one because it just enabled me to face reality in a really important way. It's something that I do want to take forwards, and kind of be reminded of that discipline of confession personally, beyond just the prayer that we pray every Sunday.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for sharing this, Ben. And of course, in the process, we work through finding peace with God, finding peace with ourselves, finding peace with others, and how to maintain peace. And we kind of describe it as a journey. So it's not like we expect to be arriving during a fairly short course in 10 or 12 weeks, but more to be on the way towards peace in those different areas. So finally, could you just give a reflection on that in terms of your own experience having now completed the course?
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of definitely don't see this as the job ticked off. I can see some change that started to happen within me. I can see that I've still got more work to do. But I think when I reflect on the course as a whole, I can see that before the course, I did feel helpless. I felt a victim. I felt like this was something that I had no control over. And yet, through the course, by kind of releasing to God what I couldn't control, it enabled me to take control of my own reactivity. And I feel like the biggest shift I've seen is I've kind of moved from victim to a responsible adult in that space of, even though I may mess up again and there'll be moments when my anger gets the better of me, that actually that doesn't need to spiral. It doesn't need to be something that I just sink back into defeated, but it's something that I can quickly recover from and seek to just take ownership of my behavior and moving forward. So it's going to be a work in progress. There's kind of deep things there, but I feel better equipped with the tools for how I can work on this behavior moving forward as well.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.